the Solo Coach Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Solo Coach Podcast. It's actually been a while since I've recorded a solo episode. Not that you will have known that, as I tend to release a solo episode every other week, alternating between solo and interview. But it's actually been a few weeks since I got the camera out and recorded a solo episode. And the episodes you've been hearing, I recorded a few weeks ago. And the reason for that gap is that I have partially been forced to switch off and take some time out from my business, as I found myself approaching a high level of fatigue and starting to get closer to a level of burnout with my business. Now, the reason for this is I am historically someone who does struggle with boundaries. I fixate on the thing that I'm working on or doing for a living, whether it's working in a business or on a business, or in my case now, working on my own business. And I have historically struggled to switch off. And even when I'm socialising and resting, relaxing, even on holiday, I find myself slipping into the bad habit of thinking and talking about work. As my partner will attest to, I am someone who will sit and think and talk about work until the cows come home. So I'm coming to you today not as someone who's found this miraculous, enlightening way to create boundaries and who has fixed my whole life and prevented burnout from ever happening. No, on the contrary, I'm coming to you from the perspective of someone who has struggled with burnout, has found myself obsessing over work and found myself fixating over outcomes and attributing my self-worth to how well I'm achieving what it is that I'm doing. So if my business results are down, my self-worth falls, and vice versa. What I'm going to share with you today is 5 ways to switch off and maintain healthier work-life boundaries. And these are the 5 ways that I've found that have helped me the most to avoid burnout and empathy and compassion fatigue, and even passion fatigue, if you could call it that. So that the loss of the joy, the loss of the love of what I do for a living. As I feel, for me, that's definitely a really easy trap to fall into, to do something to death, and something that initially was very enjoyable and rewarding becomes gradually less enjoyable, gradually less rewarding, and ends up being a kind of a really unpleasant place to be. And I found myself in the past wondering, why is this thing that I used to enjoy no longer enjoyable? Why is it no longer satisfying? Why is it no longer fulfilling? And on reflection, it's because I've done it to death. I've focused on it, fixated on it, and I've never allowed myself any time to switch off and talk about or do anything other than the thing. For example, the job, or in my case now, running the Solo Coach, my business. So, to get us started, when you think you need less, you might actually need more. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so you're telling me when I need less work, I think I need more work. I might need more work. What? What do you mean by that? What I mean is, if you've got something that's very mentally taxing and you're doing something for a living that requires a lot of thought and is mentally quite draining, and by the end of the day you're mentally quite tired, typically like running a business, being a marketer, a salesperson, a financer, and then the thing that your business actually is, in my case a coach, you're wearing all these hats all day long, you're trying to think your way out of business challenges, being faced by all these hurdles, no 2 days are the same, and there's always something that you find out, oh my goodness, I haven't done this, I need to do this, I should have done this yesterday, so the second best time to do it is now. And it's like a whirlwind of tasks and jobs and an endless to-do list. If you have a job like that, what you might need is something that is also mentally and cognitively challenging, that's completely different to focus on outside of work. So, for example, during the pandemic, when work was very intense for me, when I worked in IT, outside of those times, I taught myself how to fix and repair cars. I did it with a friend who was in my bubble, and we worked on cars together, and we were able to sell a few of them as well after we'd fixed them. And we learned a lot about mechanics and electrics, and how to fix things like a broken electric mirror, how to service cars, how to replace a stereo, how to rewire it and put new speakers in, and a whole array of tasks that we did on a number of old, slightly banger class cars, let's say, of a very low value, before and after we've fixed them, I might add. But the point was, it was something cognitively very stimulating to focus on, and something that when I was working on it, I couldn't really think about my day job, because I was fully focused on the task at hand, and very often looking at YouTube guides, Haynes manuals, forums on the internet to try and figure out what part I actually need, how to diagnose the problem, how to fix it, and then where to get the part from, and then how to fit the new part. And all of everything around fixing cars for me was a complete outlet from working in IT during the day. It was totally different. It was unrelated. And for me, it's been super powerful to have a hobby or a creative, mentally challenging pursuit to take my mind off work. And I feel that particularly as men, we need to have some form of hobby, something we can get excited about, talk about, focus on, fixate on, even in my case, that's not our day job. As I find it easier to be 100% on or 100% off. I find it hard to be 50-50. The example I'll give, I find it easier to go teetotal on alcohol if I'm having a dry month than to be someone who has just one drink a week, or just has non-alcoholic beer if I'm going to the pub. I find it easier to either go to the pub and have a few pints with my mates, or to go to the pub as a designated driver and just drink Coke and lemonade all night. I find being half in, kind of dipping your toe in the water, being half in, half out, for me personally, I find that really difficult, as the temptation is just too heavy. And non-alcoholic beer for me, don't get on very well with it. I'd rather have alcoholic beer or have a soft drink. I don't like the halfway house. Again, just a reflection of me. And on that one, I'll say definitely don't drink and drive. If you're going to be a designated driver, better to just drink soft drinks all night than try and have one beer and be under the limit, for many reasons. But yeah, number one of 5 ways to switch off and why it matters. Number one is when you think you need less, you might actually need more. But not more work, something that's more mentally taxing. As if I try and relax from work doing something that requires no thought, so it's physically very relaxing, but mentally it just gives me loads of empty space. For example, swimming, I still find myself thinking and talking about work, whether it's with myself, internal dialogue, or whether it's with someone in a hot tub or a sauna at the gym. And I feel like even though I've come away from my office, I've come away from where I do my work has come with me. So instead of trying to escape it, it can be really helpful, and I think really healthy, to have something completely different to focus on, and something you can really get your teeth into mentally and physically. And that leads really nicely into, as I was fixing those cars, I was also socialising. And number 2, the second way to switch off is through exercise and socialising. So it's an outlet for excess physical energy. And sport, exercising, often has an element of healthy competition, whether that's with other people, with friends, leaderboards, or with yourself. So I'm a big fan of Strava for my cycling, as I like to see how I stack up as a cyclist compared to this time last month, or indeed this time last year, as I enjoy to see the growth and the progress and see my fitness increasing, hopefully, and me improving as a cyclist. And also, exercise typically goes really well hand in hand with socialising, as it can be incredibly valuable to spend time with friends whilst also exercising, walking and talking, or going for a run with a friend, going for a cycle, going for a swim, playing badminton, playing tennis, whatever it is that you enjoy. I find I personally am more inclined to want to do it. I'm more inclined to go exercising if I'm going cycling with my friend James than if I'm just going to the gym on my own, completely solo. I don't particularly enjoy it. I find it a bit soul destroying, and I'm quite typically unmotivated to go to the gym on my own. But I'm far more motivated if there's someone I'm agreeing to meet there. There's a bit of accountability, and also there's a social element. So exercise and socialising, it seems obvious. It is obvious, but it is really valuable to point out. And I know I can look back on if I've had a crap fortnight and I felt fed up and tired and worn out and drained and unmotivated, I can see that chances are I've not done any exercise, or virtually none, and I've done little to no socialising. So that's socialising with friends who are outside of work. And if I have socialised and exercised but I'm still feeling crap, it might be because I've gone along to that cycle or gone out for a walk with a friend or a beer and then just spent the whole night chatting about work and about what's on my mind all day long, and I've not allowed myself to switch off. So I've absolutely not maintained boundaries, which is why it can be wonderful to flick back to number one again, to do something mentally, cognitively stimulating in a social setting. For example, working on cars, or whatever you enjoy to do, but with other like-minded individuals. Number three, to keep us moving, the third way of how to switch off and maintain healthy boundaries is to not undervalue the value of good quality sleep and mental rest. So a bit like our phones, we need to rest and recharge at the end of the day. And I'd say, don't just say, well, I'm sleeping at night and I rest in the evening. I would say, look at the quality of your sleep and the quality of your rest time. If you're in bed but you're scrolling on Instagram and TikTok until after midnight, and then if you're doing the same thing while you rest, if you're watching some really violent TV show while scrolling on your phone, so loads of blue light, and it's very stimulating, and it's not allowing you to actually physically rest and get a good night's sleep. I mean, you can use smartwatches and things to measure the quality of your sleep. Chances are it's going to be impacting on your life. And I know from my perspective, when I've thought about work, talked about it until late at night, watched a bit of TV, scrolled on Facebook or LinkedIn, particularly LinkedIn, and then gone to sleep, I know that I'm still very switched on. And I go to bed thinking about work, and if I go to bed thinking about a dilemma, chances are I wake up thinking about the same dilemma. So I would challenge you to try and move into a different frame of mind and to focus and talk about something completely non-work related, or read in bed, for example. Read before you go to bed a book. In my case, I work in personal development, so I'm trying to read some books that aren't personal development related, so it's completely unrelated to my day job, before I go to sleep, to give myself a better chance of switching off. As otherwise, I do sometimes genuinely dream that I'm at my desk working and I just don't switch off. And then the following day, I feel like I've just been at work all day and all night, which is a really crap place to be in. Don't recommend that. So the fourth way of how to switch off and maintain healthy boundaries is having a trusted friend or a coach to confide in. So someone who you can chew the fat with, you can have a chat with, but the key thing, the critical thing, is that you can share with them how you're really feeling. Not just the, how are you, mate? Yeah, not too bad. Yourself? Yeah, I'm not too bad. Cheers, see you later. Not that level of dialogue. I'm talking someone will say, so how are you really doing? How's your week really been? How are you doing in yourself? And maybe even, I've noticed the last couple of times we've met, you seem a bit tired, a bit drained. You look a bit tired, you look a bit drained. How are things? And someone who you don't feel you need to censor your words with, you don't need to bottle it up. As a problem shared, I genuinely do believe a problem shared is a problem halved. So it can be very cathartic and therapeutic to get things off your chest. And you might even hear the magic validating words of, yeah, me too. And that can be incredibly relieving to know that it's not only you, and you are not a freak, you are not a one-off, you are not crazy, you are not broken in any way. You are experiencing a completely 100% human condition of tiredness, fatigue, frustration, annoyance, whatever feeling you are feeling. If someone can listen to you and validate your feeling, that is a fantastic thing. That's a gift that they are giving you in validating how you're feeling and saying, I hear you. Yeah, that actually makes sense with everything you've got on your plate. I can understand why you're feeling like that. And then the key next step is someone who will sit with you while you maybe brainstorm a few actions. So you said you've been feeling crap, really groggy, your body's really stiff and sore, and you got some neck ache. What do you want to try and do about that? What have you done about that? Have you done anything about that yet? Is there any ideas you've got, any options you've got available to you to address how you are feeling? And it might be that you've got no idea, and then that friend can chip in with a few suggestions. But most of the time, it typically will be the case that you have got some idea. I know in my case, I typically underneath that, I know what I need to be doing, and I know what I've done wrong, and I know what's caused the way I'm currently feeling. I know what's led to it, and having someone I can talk to, whether it's my coach or a trusted friend, that will validate how I'm feeling and then help me brainstorm a few actions, can be enormously valuable and makes me feel like I'm A, not on my own, and B, there is a way out of this, because as my mum will always say, this too shall pass. Nothing lasts forever, and the only one constant in life is change. So having a friend or a coach or a partner to confide in, having one trusted person that you can confide in, is worth more than having 10, 20, 100,000 followers on Instagram if there's no one you can actually confide in. So don't underestimate that. And also noticing that person and recognizing them, thanking them, and also returning and repaying the favour, because they'll have down days. And it's just worth pointing out, it's not weak to allow others to help you. And in fact, it enables them to get a good feeling. When was the last time you helped someone, they said thank you, and then you felt good as a result? To allow someone to help you and assist you and support you actually gives them a good feeling as well. Even though you feel like, oh my goodness, I've just chewed this person's ear off and I've just tired them out and I've droned on, and what a bore I am, what terrible company I was tonight, what a rubbish friend I am. On the contrary, I have said those things to people and they've said back to me, no, but you allowed me to help you and support you, and I find that really refreshing. And it was nice to talk about your challenges, as there's a lot I have in common with you and there's a lot I can relate to, and it was nice to talk about something different to my day job. I am lucky, so lucky to have friends like that who genuinely are happy to sit and listen to me talk about my week and how I'm feeling, and then chip in with a few ideas and suggestions, or just reflections, or simply just listen to me. And as a coach in my business, the solo coach, I pride myself in doing that for my clients as well. Being a listening ear, reflecting back to them what they said, highlighting what they said, maybe if they said it loads and loads of times, saying, you said this word 4 times, I counted. Tell me more about that. And very often they'll come with a question. A client will come to me with a question and I won't know what the answer is. And that's fine. And I trust the process of our conversation together over the next hour and a half will lead us to an answer. And by trusting the process together as the coach and the coachee, we can have a conversation, and it might turn out that we do get to the answer to that question, or we find that there's actually another question at a deeper level and the original question isn't the real question. So it could be that the initial question was how to generate more revenue, but underneath that there might be the assumption that more revenue is going to equal more happiness, as the individual is feeling really unhappy. So the real question is, why are you feeling unhappy? Can we get you to a point where you feel happier? Because typically when you feel better, your results reflect your identity, particularly when you're self-employed. If you're feeling shit, your business results might be quite shit as well. But if you're feeling great, chances are your business results are going to either be great or certainly be on an upward trajectory to getting better as you're more equipped to take action. And what seem like mountains when you're feeling shit actually seem like molehills when you're feeling great. Keeping us moving, how to switch off and why it matters. So number 1, we had when you think you need less, you might actually need more. Number 2 is exercise and socialising. Number 3 was sleep and mental rest. Number 4 was having a friend or a coach to confide in. And then finally, last and definitely not least, is create time for deep reflection and then allow yourself to do it. So if you're someone like me who is a deep thinker, perhaps a bit of an overthinker and a worrier maybe, but where the way you operate is you like to take time to reflect and to process, to ruminate, to consider all of the options, to listen to your intuition. I say don't deny it. As children, we spent a lot of our time in our imagination and we created these imaginary worlds. And then as adults, we deny that side of our psyche, typically. And we convince ourselves that we haven't time for deep thinking as we're too busy. We're too busy doing the doing and there's no time to think. And too much talk and not enough action. Too much thinking, not enough action. But there's that old saying, think before you talk. And I believe it's incredibly valuable to think on a decision, to reflect, to analyse, and to allow that message, if there's a message that's trying to come through, if your gut is screaming at you and there's something that feels wrong or imbalanced inside of you, I believe it's incredibly valuable to take time to listen to that message and try and understand what the message is. Maybe the message is you're in the wrong place and what you're currently doing for a living or a business is just not right for you. You're trying to get a square peg into a round hole. You're just fighting an uphill battle here and it's not working. Perhaps there's a little element of denial in there. Or it could be something different. It could be related to a relationship in life, a friendship, or a romantic relationship that you're trying everything to make it work, but it's not working. You're having to force it, and it typically can be really valuable to take some time to reflect on what you've done so far, what's working, what's not working, and sometimes it might be that a completely 180 degree change is needed, a different approach is needed, or it might be that some persistence is required, as the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and again and again and again and expect a different result. So therefore, if we're not happy with our results, we need to change our actions. If we don't like the output, we need to change the input. But if we keep inputting the same thing all day long, the output's probably going to remain the same. So deep reflection, ruminating and thinking out loud can be an incredible experience with your coach for me, that's probably the number one reason I got into coaching, is because I am a chronic overthinker, and when I have ideas, they typically go round and round and round in my head, and I get no further with them. It's like a washing machine effect. The washing goes round, but it never escapes the confines of the machine in the kitchen under the worktop. But when I speak to a coach, when someone listens to me and really listens to understand, not just to respond, but to understand, to help me figure out what these thoughts are doing, where they're coming from, and what the answer might well be, that has been a complete life-changing game changer for me, and it has enabled me to become unstuck when I've felt stuck, or as though I'm just going round in circles like a dog chasing its tail. So deep reflection and rumination is very, very valuable to allow yourself to do it in solitude, and then also taking that leap of faith and bringing someone else into your mind, into your headspace, into your pattern of thinking, and introducing them to your dilemma, your upcoming decision that you're trying to make, or sharing with them an idea that you've had. For me, it's a gift that people come and do that with me, and it's a gift that I am able to do that with my coach, as it enables me to see the wood for the trees and often realise something that I wasn't aware of, and see an option or see a path through the fog, the mental fog, that I wasn't aware of prior to the conversation with my coach. And in summary, so we've had these 5 ways to switch off and maintain healthier work-life boundaries. In summary, I'd say it's absolutely essential to listen to your body. If you've got a constant feeling of tiredness, it's essential to do something about it. And if there isn't, and you're feeling fantastic, that's wonderful. Let's keep it that way by maintaining healthy work-life boundaries and ensuring that you regularly and often switch off physically and mentally as well, which sometimes, as I've said earlier, might not be fully switching off. It might be switching from on in your business/work to on in your recreational activity/hobby. Thank you very much. I've been David Garwood, the Solo Coach. Let me know what you think to this episode in the comments, and if you have any other additional ideas or would like to share any other ways that you've found really helpful for switching off and maintaining healthy work-life boundaries, please pop them in the comments. I would love to hear. I'll see you again next week. Thanks for your listen.
The Solo Coach Podcast.